Hi, my name is Jason Kling. I'm the Richfield District Ranger with the Fish Lake National Forest. Today I'm on Magleby Pass here on Monroe Mountain. Monroe Mountain is located just south of Richfield in Monroe. Cusharam and Greenwich are to the east, Marysville and Junction are to the west, and Anemone and Engle are to the south. Monroe Mountain is about 30 miles long, 15 miles wide. It's about 175,000 acres that's managed and administered by the Richfield Ranger District. Monroe Mountain is a great location to be able to bring your families out, be able to camp, hike, horseback ride, enjoy time on your ATVs, hunt, fish, and so forth. With the Forest Service, our mission is caring for the land and serving the people. As part of that mission, we manage for sustainable multiple use so that we can meet the diverse needs of the public while being able to protect the resources, protecting those resources so that we can all enjoy the healthy, productive, beautiful lands that occur for many of us right here in our backyard. When I talk about multiple use, we manage for wildlife habitat, fisheries habitat, clean water, healthy watersheds, timber, livestock grazing, being able to provide a wood fiber product to our public, firewood, for example, mining, as I talked about earlier, camping, hiking, recreation, and so forth. Today what we're really going to focus on is our vegetation management program here on Monroe Mountain. We've been able to successfully complete several projects in the recent past. We've got some active projects that we're currently working on now, and we've got some plans to be able to do some larger projects into the future. I wanted to be able to take this opportunity to share with you what we've got going on and some of the reasoning and why behind some of these projects, so that you've got a better understanding of what's occurring here on Monroe and why some of these projects are going on.
We want to talk about this project. This is the Monument Peak project that we're looking at, and I think we'll talk of it in terms of the project here, and then we'll talk about it in the context of Monroe Mountain. This project here was designed as a WUI project. For those that don't know what that acronym means, means Wildland Urban Interface. Specifically, wildland urban interface is where our wildlands come in contact with private property. Why this project was developed was primarily for fuels mitigation around private property. Behind us, we got a cabin behind us. Part of the project area was up here. This area was designed as a thinning to reduce the density and provide spacing between trees, with the idea that it would change fire behavior. In this direction here, we have aspen clear cuts with the idea that, again, it would open up space, but we would use the aspen as a live fuel break. Reduce the amount of conifer in there, which tends to be more, it ignites more readily than aspen does. Aspen have a tendency to change fire behavior from, say, a crown fire to more of one that's either on the ground. It's also been known to stop fires. It can turn fires. So although the intent was to reproduce aspen in the form of suckering in here, overall as it relates to fire behavior, it'll change it in those ways. The treatment over here was a clear cut versus a thinning. You can see the difference. If you want to know what it looked like somewhat before the treatment, all you have to do is look behind his cabin. Look very similar to that. This area over here probably had a few more conifers than what you're seeing behind his cabin, but so this would be a thinning, a no treatment, and then a clear cut. So you get kind of a good correlation between what's going on here. In the context of Monroe Mountain itself, behind this we have more private property. Monument, or Monroe Mountain in general, in relation to the rest of the Fish Lake, probably has the highest density of private property. So we have fuels project that goes on to either reduce density in this fashion or regenerate aspen in this fashion to affect private property or fire behavior, so it doesn't affect private property. In the background, I don't know if you can see in the background, we have a fence here. The idea behind the fencing is to protect it from grazers. If there's a lot of areas on the mountain where we don't protect our aspen stands, we tend to lose the aspen stands to grazers.
My name is Craig Rasmussen, the wildlife biologist here on the Richfield Ranger District of the Fish Lake National Forest. Years ago, Al Windward, one of our Forest Service researchers that dealt with sagebrush a lot, told me that healthy rangeland consists of 10 to 13% sagebrush with a mix of grass and forbs. So as I looked around our district and here on Monroe Mountain, I noticed that several of our rangeland areas had a consistency of 20 to 25% sagebrush, and the understory was starting to decrease proportionately. The grass and forbs were starting to fade. So my crew and I gathered up an old Dixie harrow and started a program in about '97, and we started to treat acres on our district. As we learned from the treatments, our grasses increased by 2 to 3 times. Our forbs would increase by double, sometimes triple, and we would decrease sagebrush depending on our objective with a once over application of 50%. A twice over application would do about 90%. And that was what we were after for wildlife, a thinning. Thinning is good, gave us that proportion that Al Windward talked about. So we started to look at several 100 acres. We got funding from several sources. The UPCD group, the Utah Partners for Conservation Development, have forwarded several $1,000s to us for funding to do a Dixie Harrow treatment here and there across the district. And that group consists of the Elk Foundation, the Deer Foundation, the Sportsmen for Fish and Wildlife, the Watershed Group from UDWR, the Turkey Federation. Several volunteer hours have been put in. We see, as we've treated animals, wild and domestic, ungulate animals using the areas that we've treated because of the increase of forage. It's similar to a burn. We get a flush of forbs, we get a flush of grass, we reduce the competition with the sagebrush and allow all the light and water to the grass and forb community. And it's just been a tremendous program, and we continue to see positive results, and we are going to continue to work to retreat areas that need retreatment and look at new areas to treat so that we can improve the health of the rangeland on the Richfield Ranger District.
Permittees of the Casharum cattle allotment and the Rock Springs allotment and the Dry Lake sheep allotment have agreed to cooperate with the Richfield District in combining these three allotments into a larger unit. The purpose for this is so that we can manage the top of the mountain and give them the opportunity to rest from 1 to 3 additional pastures during the grazing season. The purpose for this rest program is so that we are able to provide a complete growing season for all of the vegetation that's on the allotments. We're primarily interested in all of the grass, forbs, browse, and tree species here on the top of the mountain. And the rest program gives us an opportunity that we're able to try to improve the vigor and also the density of these plants. This program is designed that it will run for approximately 10 years and will be monitored during the entire 10-year period to make sure that we stay within the sidelines of the forest plan and that we'll be able to determine any benefits or any drawbacks to this type of program. This program, as we monitor it, we'll be able to determine whether this is going to be of a benefit, a long-term benefit, which we hope it will be, to both the Forest Service and the livestock permittees over a long-term or period of time to maintain our range resources. In the history of the Forest Service, the agency's always been active in vegetation treatments and improvements and the efforts to improve particularly ground cover, which is vegetation and litter, which prevents, of course, soil erosion and allows for a more vigorous stand of vegetation. It's also been involved in the improvement of vegetation, the improvement of aspen, the improvement of sage-grass types, changes in pinyon juniper in the lowlands. These areas and this type of work has always improved the grazing opportunities that are available on national forest lands for both wildlife and domestic livestock. This is a program that's been part of the Forest Service since the very beginning.
We're here on Monroe Mountain at about 8,700 feet. I've got 2 tree cookies out of 2 ponderosa pine that were harvested, or the holes were cut out of the trees on the ridge behind me. And we were interested in them because they had big fire scars on them. When a tree's young, if a fire burns through, it can burn the bark off a small piece of one side, and at that point it becomes a recording tree. Once it's become a recording tree, every time fire comes through and hits that side of the tree, it continues to scar that tree, which allows us then to come in, count the rings, and determine how frequently fire visited the stand. Between these 2 trees, we have an average of fire returning every 18 years. We have a total of length of record from 1533 on this tree to 1543 on this tree, about more than 400 years of fire on the landscape. The last fire in both of these trees was in 1838, so there's been a significant length of time without fire now. We've continued to look at fires across Monroe Mountain and other sites, and this is not an anomaly. 18 years is not unusual. The narrowest length of time we've had is 6 years. The longest length of time we've had is 75 years. So fire has been a regular visitor. The reason fire being a regular visitor is important to the vegetation on Monroe Mountain is that it has evolved with fire. We know from these and other records across the mountain that aspen does better with fire. It sprouts as soon as fire burns through. It recruits and grows healthily, and over time conifer move in, encroach on it, and fire needs to come back in to regenerate those small sprouts of aspen. Without fire, the overstory stand of aspen can get crowded out by the dense conifer. And that's not, across the mountain, a healthy thing to have happen. We would like to have different patches of different age aspen and mixed conifer both.
We're standing in an aspen stand right now. There's 2, what people in the forestry world talk about is a sterile stand versus a stable stand. We're standing in what would be considered a stable stand right now. The reason we're here discussing this particular stand is there's certain elements within a stable stand that we look for to indicate a stand that is going to last or regenerate or perpetuate itself into the future. stable aspen stands by definition have very few conifers within the stands. They're characteristic multi-layer aspen, whether it's the tall stuff and then the medium and then a small. So this stand here, we have pretty much one layer of aspen. We have a few of the smaller or the medium-sized trees. Not really a desired condition that we would want for a stable aspen stand. Behind me, about 100 yards behind me, is an example of a stand that would be a desired condition that we'd like in terms of multi-layered stable stands. On the flip side to that, and we'll look later at this, a cirro stand has a higher component of conifers mixed in with the aspen. The more the conifer in them, the farther along the stand is. You could say degrading. In a forester sense, it's a climax, farther along in the climax. In the cirro stage, excuse me. So aspen in general, in relation to the other conifers on the Fish Lake and on Monroe Mountain, are a shorter lived species, somewhere along the line of about 120 to 150 years typically. Conversely, our conifers could go as long as 300-400 years of age. So short-lived in comparison. That's why it's important we have these more multi-levels in these stable stands, so they can perpetuate themselves over a longer period of time. So even if this overstory, the overstory or the larger trees die, we have a continuous recruitment of aspen coming into the understory to replace those that die through time. So in that sense, we can get stands or clones, if you will, of trees, groupings of trees, to last longer than a conifer, a single conifer. By itself, conifer again will outlast a single aspen. The stand we were previously in was a stable stand. We have another example of another stable stand that I was talking about previously. This, when we look at stable stands and what we desire as a condition for a stable aspen stand, this would be the epitome of what we're looking for. We have a small layer right here, we have another sub-layer right here, and then another layer right here, and then we have the main canopy. So when we refer to stable stands and we want a multi-layered appearance, this is the type of appearance that we're looking for. This will be self-perpetuating. So as these trees get a little older, they die for whatever reason, either because of age or rot or whatever. They begin to tip over, they open up another space and allow more regeneration to occur within that hole. Then these other trees begin to take their place. And so you get this perpetual cycle of overstory, and then the mid-class taking over for the overstory and the small ones moving up into the mid-story, and it just perpetuates itself through time. This is not a stand that is common on Monroe Mountain, and I would argue on most of the Fish Lake. Most of our stable stands look more closely like the stand we were in initially. It's unique. One of the answers as to why this might occur, why did this stand not be impacted by some of the grazers as some of the other ones, could simply be flavor. Who's ever eaten it just doesn't like the flavor. But it's something that is being studied and probably will likely continue to be studied to try to find some of those answers as to why that occurs and why it doesn't. We're at a new location now. We're about an 1/8 of a mile or so from Brindley Flat, in an area that we harvested back in 2009. We had a harvested area over here. We've got a burned area over there, and in a minute we'll talk about the burned area, but for now we'll focus on the clear cut. This is part of a larger project. Can't recall off the top of my head how many acres now, but it was over 1,000, of a larger WUI project. Again, I think I described the WUI before, so I won't go into the WUI portion. The idea here was to clear cut, remove all the trees, conifer and aspen. We had a mix of subalpine fir, mostly subalpine fir was the conifer. We did have some Engelmann spruce on that end, and then aspen. So it was probably about a 60% aspen at the time, with the rest being conifer. The area was cut in 2009. The slash was piled into furrows or rows and then burned in 2011. So after the harvest and before the burn, the area was fenced. This area in particular is around 70 acres or so. It was fenced to keep out wildlife and livestock. And as you can see, the growth here, I'm a little under 6 feet tall. The growth is over my head, so we're at about 6 feet or a little over 6 feet after the harvest in 2009 and the burn in 2011. So quite substantial growth. Aspen, unlike most of your conifers, have a high rate of growth, at least in the very beginning. When they're real young, they get high really fast, or can get tall really fast. So as with the Monument Peaks project that we had, we fenced it. We know this area has a high ungulate use area, so we fenced it to protect the aspen, so the aspen can grow above the browse height. So we probably have a few more years yet to maintain this fence before the aspen get a little bit taller and beyond the reach of the ungulates, and then we'll probably release the fence at that time. On the other side, okay, so conversely to the clear-cut area that we mechanically treated, on this side was the Box Creek wildfire that occurred in the spring of 2012. The area was fenced for the same reason as the mechanically treated area on the other side of the road, to keep out the browsers. This was fenced in the fall of 2012. Not a lot of difference in the regeneration rates between both sides. I would say that you probably have a more consistent coverage here, whereas up here it's kind of hit and miss, but that could just be a difference in the stand characteristics of each side. The other difference, primary difference, is you've got a lot of standing trees left over from the burn. At some point they'll begin to fall over, hopefully not on top of our fence, but that does occur on occasion too. So not a whole lot of difference in regeneration rates between the two sides. I think they look healthy on both sides.
I'm Nick Musto, Area Forester for the State of Utah's Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. Behind us, on the east side of Monroe Meadows, you see the mix of Forest Service and private lands that defines the Monroe Mountain landscape. The Division works to provide defensible space around private cabins on the mountain, fuel breaks to prevent the potentially catastrophic effects of wildfire on the mountain, as well as creating forest restoration projects to improve aspen and conifer forest health on the mountain. These projects complement the work going on by the Forest Service, and the Division fully supports the projects to provide defensible space at a landscape level through fuel reduction projects like the one you see behind me.
We're standing in what is known as the Oldroyd Fire of 2000. In late July of 2000, a lightning strike started this fire and burnt very hot and covered about 1,600 acres. The Oldroyd Fire taught us many things. This little exclosure behind me is one of those lessons that we learned. We put these exclosures throughout the Oldroyd Fire in several different places to monitor aspen regeneration and hopefully recruitment. The problem with the dairies is it's a very desirable area for wildlife and livestock. It's actually known in our area as a little Yellowstone because the elk are here from early in the season through midsummer and through the rutting season in late fall. That many ungulates in this area make it hard for aspen to regenerate and be successful. So we learned from that if we do projects in this area of smaller sizes, we have to fence them to be successful. But we don't want to have to fence everywhere. So the lessons we take from this area to other places are that the treatments need to be larger, disperse the ungulate pressure, and hopefully we'll gain the recruitment in the long run that we desire. We're standing in the Box Creek prescribed burn of 2012. It was an early spring burn, the end of May, first week of June, when the fire ran through this area. So it's had 2.5 years of growing seasons. It is doing just exactly what we would like it to. It's successful because we put an 8-foot fence around several hundred acres in this area to keep ungulate pressure from eating the regeneration that would occur in these areas. We are seeing tremendous growth each year, 2 to 3 feet, it looks like, of new growth. This early burn created a wonderful wildlife habitat. It has a combination of old growth still, new growth, so the cover to forage balance is ideal for wildlife of all kinds, big and small game. And we wouldn't be successful in this project without several partners, namely UPCD, Utah Partners of Conservation Development, and the Dedicated Hunter Program. The dedicated hunters have constantly volunteered their time on a weekly basis during the summer months to go around the outside of the fences and look for areas that might be a problem with a tree that had fallen over on them, where an animal might jump in, and another animal, to where if we had herds of elk in here, they would quickly take the young saplings down to the ground. And because the volunteers have kept the fences up, we see very good success. And we see success on other parts of the mountain, actually other places on the north end, on the Annabelle Fire, Marysville Peak Fire. Some of those areas we've had to fence, other areas we haven't. It all depends on the ungulate pressure, and we learn about it through different studies on elk telemetry and grazing, resting the cattle for a certain amount of time so that we are successful. So it's a combination of a lot of cooperation, a lot of partnerships, and a lot of tools. And from the Forest Service side, learning from some things that didn't go quite right for us. And now we've taken those things and put them to use here, and we're tickled with the success we have.
We're here in the Sawmill Flat area near Monroe Peak. What we want to discuss here is a twofold thing. First, to kind of describe what we did here. There's been a couple of treatments that we did in relation to the Box Creek project that we were at earlier with the big aspen portion. In here we did a thinning project to again reduce density, primarily geared towards fire. In the background here, this is the Monkey Flat area. You'll notice that we have a little bit of green interspersed with a lot of brown. The brown that we're seeing on the slope here is caused, that's the dead spruce caused by the spruce beetle. It's a beetle that I suspect this population has come from around the Cusharam guard station. The population's been in the cove area and has been moving south for quite some time now. It hit this area probably sometime last year, 2013, and is now around the Barney Lake area, and I would suspect it's going to reach Manning Reservoir either this year, at the end of this year, or sometime next year. This is at an epidemic stage, and when I say epidemic, the difference between an endemic, which is a low population, versus an epidemic population is a matter of tree count. At least the way the research describes it, as if we have any trees around 10, clumps of around 10 trees or more, it's considered an epidemic population, versus an endemic, which is a periodic dead tree here, maybe one over there, and maybe one over here. So the population's at an epidemic portion right now. When they get high like that, they tend to go after trees that are smaller in nature as their food supply begins to run out. They initially go after the larger trees, 8 inches and above. They'll go towards the larger end first. So if we have any 24, 25-inch trees, they'll go for them first and start taking them out before they start going to the smaller classes. As I was saying, the spruce beetle prefer larger trees. They also prefer more dense stands. Dense stands, such as what we're looking at here, are more preferred because trees tend to be stressed from the competition of a more dense stand. So they're trying to acquire nutrients and those kinds of things to grow in the tree, and then it's trying to compete at the same time with another tree for those same nutrients. So drought also affects that. So if we get a drought, it can increase the possibility or probability that we would get an infestation. Some of the other causes are blowdown, whether that's due to something we've done or due to a natural event. A lot of the larger outbreaks in the west that have occurred in the past could be traced to blowdown of some kind of event, whether it could be an avalanche that's occurred, a landslide, some of those kinds of things that knock spruce over. Those kinds of trees are, for whatever reason, preferred by the beetle, and they can initiate the original outbreak. So treatments that we've used, sanitation and salvage. In the case like this where we have a lot of trees that are dead or dying already, we would go in and we'd salvage the dead trees and then sanitize the other trees. And that sanitation means that there's live larvae in the tree, and we'd remove them before they had a chance to fly out and infect another tree. So that would be the sanitation mode. The other approach that we have taken is to reduce the density and maintain an uneven age structure. So like we saw in the stable aspen stands where we had multiple layers, the same thing would apply in the spruce where we had multiple layers, multiple size classes. So if the spruce beetle comes, they may kill some of the larger trees, but they would likely ignore some of the smaller trees in the area, and we'd still have a stand of trees. More often than not, when we have an epidemic like this that gets in and it's this bad, it'll take out almost every tree, and it'll kill even some of the smaller size classes. I've seen them down as low as 4 inches that they killed, as far as diameter goes. So can be a very detrimental pest. Currently, spruce beetle management, we've been working in the Cove area down near Big Lake. Varying degrees of success over there. Have had to do a lot of replanting and stuff like that, but we have managed to capture some of the economic value that is there within that area, and then replanting. So it's going to take some time for those areas to recover, but they are in various stages of recovery. Industry. So this project right here that we're doing was in partnership with the Turkey Federation. The whole Box Creek project, the Monument Peak project, was all done through a partnership from the Forest Service and the Turkey Federation. One of the reasons the Forest Service has gone to a partnership such as the Turkey Federation is because we've had trouble with our markets, selling spruce and selling aspen. A lot of our industry has dried up and disappeared. Some of that is caused from the just the decline in the housing market caused a drop in the stumpage. It just hasn't been real profitable for individuals. There are a lot fewer loggers around. There are a lot fewer companies to be able to do the work, and so we've had to look at other opportunities to be able to get some of the work done. The other issue we've been having in terms of industry is simply the difference in price, the price difference between the different species. Spruce on the forest is probably the most high value that we have, with subalpine fir and Doug fir and ponderosa second, and lastly aspen. So when we do a lot of aspen management, it costs more money with very little return on the dollar. We could talk that on the ecological side that is more beneficial on that side, but in terms of dollars, it's more costly to do management in an aspen stand than it is to do in a spruce stand or a mixed conifer with Doug fir and ponderosa pine and those kinds of species. So it's one of the reasons we've gone to these stewardship agreements, which this was under a stewardship agreement to do the work. So this stuff right here is called frass. You can consider that sawdust, basically, and it's caused by the beetles and the larvae chewing in the tree. Okay, so they create, and I'd have to tip that one out, but they create these galleries in there, the females do, and so it kind of is like a straight line, and then they have all these, much like a tree, that fans off of it, and then the females call the males to the tree. So the females come in first, and they land on the tree, and they send out the pheromones to attract other beetles to the tree. And they'll send out the first one to attract other females to the tree, and then they all mass attack the tree. Now, if the tree is healthy, it gets a lot of, it's not competing a lot, and it has access to good nutrients and things like that, and it's not in a drought, it has a chance to pitch them out. So the tree's first defense is the bark, the second defense is its pitch. And what you'll find is, if you see a tree that has a lot of pitch and stuff on it, it's probably been mass attacked by the beetle. That's its response to that attack when it breaks through the bark and gets to here. If it pitches the beetle out, the tree will go on living. But these spruce beetles are pretty adept at getting by the tree's defenses. So the spruce beetle come in here. The spruce beetle is specific, the host is specific to spruce. So we have the Colorado blue spruce. We might refer to it as water spruce, and we also have the Engelmann spruce. So it'll go after both of those types of trees in here. The Doug fir beetle will attack the Doug fir. The only beetle that it will go after multiple species that we have here is the Ips beetle. Okay. Normally in the Ips beetle, you'll see them on down trees, and they can sustain more heat than a spruce beetle can. So if you get a wind-blown tree or a tree that's knocked over, you usually find spruce beetle on the bottom of the tree, and you'll find Ips beetle on the top of the tree. And so they can cohabitate, they're not in the same location, but they can cohabitate in the same tree at a different location. So the female gets on here, sends out the pheromone, attracts the other females and males to the tree. They start a mass attack. Once they break through the tree's defenses, the females go to work, starting their galleries, breeding with the males. Once the males get in, the males send off another hormone that basically tells other males, hey, we don't need you here, we're good. And that's to eliminate the competition, the sexual competition between males. They breed with the females, and then the female lays her eggs in the galleries. It's not the actual beetle, the initial getting in the tree, that kills the tree. It's actually the larvae that do it, because the larvae are feeding off of the phloem, and the phloem is about, in a tree this size, probably a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch in size, that goes around the tree, just underneath the bark, and there will be millions of them in this tree, millions, in a single tree. And they usually have a single life cycle, so they'll infest in the spring, and then they'll come out in the spring. So they'll infest in there, they'll lay their eggs, and then they go through their stage, their insect stage, and then they come out again in the following spring. Some of the natural controls on them, Craig can attest to woodpeckers. Woodpeckers take a lot of them. Other beetles, there are other beetles that'll come in and feed off the larvae. Cold is probably the best thing that you can do, although they're somewhat protected in the tree from cold because of the tree's bark and just a little bit of the heat that the tree will produce during the wintertime. But extreme cold meaning below 0 temperatures for an extended period of time, can have some effect on the populations.
I'm Kelly Cornwall. I'm the district fuel specialist for the Richfield Ranger District for the Fish Lake National Forest. Recently I've been the burn boss up here near Monroe Meadows, near Brindley Flat and Sawmill Flat, doing some prescribed fire in some mechanically thinned areas, basically trying to reduce hazardous fuels around the Monroe Meadows area. These projects we've basically been using prescribed fire to reduce hazardous fuels and also regenerate aspen around the area. We've been kind of utilizing the nighttime higher RHs, lower temps to be more successful and safer around the community of Monroe Meadows. We have other similar projects such as the Monument Peak project that's similar to this. It's been mechanically thinned. I'm looking to do the kind of same type of thing to be able to get in there and use prescribed fire to reduce those hazardous fuels. So the thinning prior is really beneficial for us to be able to be successful at that. We have other projects out there such as the Twin Peaks project. It's more of a mixed conifer prescribed fire. That's hazardous fuels reduction, but also aspen regeneration as well. And there's other ones in the future that we're looking at, such as the Monroe Aspen project that will be using similar mechanical thinning, so we can utilize prescribed fire safely around the private property, and then utilize more fire to regenerate aspen as well, and so that's kind of our future plans.
Okay, my name's Wes Freeborn, burn boss on the Twin Peaks prescribed fire. So this is a stand replacement mixed conifer. The intent of this is to kill the overstory trees, the subalpine fir, Doug fir, some of these encroaching trees that are replacing the aspen. So we came up here. We've been collecting fuel moistures for about 5 weeks, watching the weather trends. We made a plan. Our plan came together today halfway. So moistures were up, prescription was favorable, started the day, things started good, our ignition plan went off good, came across the top, had some good progress. As you can see behind me, we accomplished what we were after for the top end of this project. As the day progressed, we got a little bit more cloud cover than we anticipated. Has a big impact on fire behavior, and we just started losing the fire behavior to really get extreme fire behavior like we need to kill some of these overstory trees. So we made the call halfway down to shut it off. We saved the bottom end of this. We've got a good chunk of this stand left that we intend to come back, continue to watch our prescription, find the right day, and we'll put fire back into this and regenerate aspen is the overall project objective. So, it was a positive day, no injuries, everybody's safe and sound. Got a little bit of mop up to do, secure some perimeters, and make sure that we can, set ourselves up for success when the right day comes.
So we hope that you've found this educational video helpful for you. Hopefully it's answered many of your questions, and some of you may have been wondering why various projects were occurring here on Monroe Mountain, and this was an opportunity for us to try to get our message out and to be able to share with you some of the different things that we've got going on and why we're doing these projects. Hopefully you've found this helpful and useful for you. Our office is located in Richfield. You're always welcome to come in and visit us. We're always happy to answer your questions and help in any way that we can. We also have a new Facebook website, as well as Twitter, and so if you're into the social media and are interested and want to hear of various things and updates that are going on across the National Forest, that's also another opportunity for you. And encourage you to take advantage of this, and like I said, always feel free to come into our office there in Richfield. We're always happy to help in any way that we can. Thank you.